In this presentation, I will give you a short introduction to the process on how we actually move you from local hosted to cloud hosted. And then Doetsje will follow up with some facts and real life stories on how it was for University of Groningen. And then you'll have a chance to ask some questions at the end. Doetsje will be co-presenting with me, and Doetsje is the team manager for the Pure team at the University of Groningen, and you've been working with Pure since 2014, so several years, and you're a member of the Dutch user group. And I'm working in the Pure implementation team in Europe, so I'm located in Aalborg in Denmark. I've been working with Pure since 2015, just had a short break on 2 years, but coming up to 6 years of experience. So Doetsje is more experienced in Pure than I am. Good. So what's in it for you? So we feel that moving Pure to cloud hosted is a good deal for you. And the reason is that it allows you to focus on your research management, managing your research, and not spend time on monitoring servers, doing updates and backups and so. We also sometimes hear from clients that they actually save some money. It's cheaper for them in resources. And we also sometimes hear that they actually get better performance than the local hosted server that they have. There are a few choices that you need to make. So you need to decide whether you want a dedicated or standard hosting. So it has to do with the upgrades of your Pure. And you also need to decide on how many servers you want, whether you want just a production server or a staging server, or maybe also a test development server. These discussions you will have normally we'll have with our sales representatives, and sometimes they invite me or my colleagues to come along to answer your questions. So when this sales process ends and you have a project, then you will be handed over to me or one of my colleagues, and we will help you do the actual move. And the actual move, the process for the actual move is a 3-phased. So we have a test phase, a move phase, and a post-move phase. And in the test phase, we will first establish a Amazon server for you with a copy of data from your production system. Sometimes we also do a copy from your test or staging server, but normally it's from your production system. And in this test phase, we will ask you to test your integrations. We will ask you to do the normal test that you normally do when you upgrade your Pure, just to check that everything is as expected. And normally this phase takes 1 to 4 months, depending on how many integrations you have and the resource availability. Then when we come to the actual move, this is where we ask you to stop your local server. We ask you to do a final export of data from your production system, so a copy of your database and a copy of your files. Then we spin up your Amazon server, your production Amazon server with that data, and we do the switch. So it means that we also do redirections so that you have your new Pure on the same domains and URLs as your local hosted Pure. Normally that takes 1 to 2 days, depending on the amount of data you have and if we run into any issues. The last phase is the post-move. So in this phase, we will be monitoring your Pure servers just to see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted. It might be resources that we need to raise or something. We will also establish your staging server or test server if you bought these. So normally we do that by just copying your production server into a new server. We'll also upgrade your Pure version. So if you might be falling a bit behind on your local hosted server, we will ensure that you actually get upgraded to a newer version. And then after a week or two, we'll ask you, or we'll tell you that now it's time for you to actually get rid of or remove your local hosted servers. And normally that takes 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how much work we have ahead of us. So quite simple process. And now I'll try to dive a bit into the details on how to actually export the data and the test that you need to do. So doing the export of the data, we actually have an application that we will pass you. It's called the PVA Data Exporter. It's a Java-based application, and you need to run that on the server that hosts your Pure. It will copy your files to an Amazon S3 bucket, so a file server, and it will also migrate your database and put that on the same Amazon server. And the format of this database that it migrates to is in an agnostic format. And then when we then deploy the Amazon server, we will deploy it with a Postgres database. And you can also say that this migration of the database is actually a well-known feature. So you have it built into your Pure. When you do an export of your database for support, it's actually the same functionality. So this PVA exporter is a proven and a mature process. So it ensures that we're doing it in the same way every time that we export the data, and it's less risk and less manual work for you. So it has proven to be really, really well. See if I forgot something. Yeah, so normally this PVA exporter, when we run it for the test server, it can actually run while you have your production Pure running, so you don't need to stop your Pure. And you can run it in different modes so that it exports both the database and files. And then when we get to do the actual final move, we will ask you to run it exporting the files first, and then we can do just export of the database and the changed files on the day of the actual move. That will save us some time. So it runs in different modes, and it also runs in an incremental mode. So it's really an improvement that we've gotten this to. Then regarding the test activities, so we ask you to test your internal integrations. So it means, let's say your HR data integration or your finance integrations, you need to test that still works. We also ask you to test your single sign-on. We ask you to test your email settings and your online import sources and what other integrations you have. When it comes to your internal integrations, if you have an XML-based integration, Pure will of course need to have access to the server that stores your XML files. If you have a database-based integration, you might have a security issue with Pure actually accessing your database server in your own network. Then it is possible for us to set up an SSH tunnel between the Pure server and the database, and that's normally enough. Regarding a single sign-on, we sometimes see that some of our clients need to change their single sign-on method. So we have a few clients that has a header-based authentication. That won't work in Amazon, so you might need to change, but we do that as part of the test. And regarding email settings, you can choose to go with your own email server, or you can also choose to go with the Elsevier email server. And again, it depends on what your IT allows you to do. The only limitation of going with the Elsevier one is that then I think the from address will be an Elsevier address. So I think that's it. Yeah. So that's it on the test activities. And normally that takes a couple of months, 3 months to go through this in a small project like this. Setting up redirections. So when we deploy your Pure in Amazon, it will be deployed on an Elsevier domain. We of course recommend you that we set up redirections so that your Pure will be deployed on the same URLs as you have in your local hosted servers. And again, we can do that by just having you set up a CNAME record, And then we can either issue the certificates and set up the redirections, or you can issue the certificates and then we can set up the redirections. And normally that is not something that needs much preparation. We simply do that on the day at the actual move. So quite simple. Then timeline-wise, so quite often when we do these moves, we have a Pure portal that comes with Pure. So this example is with the Pure portal. Of course, sometimes we also do moves with custom portals, and sometimes we also do moves with just Pure. That is also possible. But when it comes with the Pure portal, there are a few say limitations or time constraints that you need to be aware of. So what we'll do first on the day that we do the final move is that we will stop your Pure backend, your local hosted Pure, but we will keep your Pure portal running. And it means that your Pure portal will not be updated with any changes as your Pure is stopped. Then we'll export the database and files. We'll spin up your new Amazon server, set up the redirections, and then we'll actually enable a new Pure portal that will be exactly the same as the old one, and it will then start to harvest data. So it means on day one, maybe day two, you will have the backend up and running again, and a new portal will be harvesting data while the old portal is still available. Then when the new portal has finished harvesting data, we will do the switch of the two portals. So we will actually do the switch in two steps. First the backend, and then the Pure portal. And the time it takes for the new portal to be available, of course, depends on the amount of data that you have. Let me see if I missed something more. Good. I think that's it. Then on collaboration, so we normally start these small projects with a kickoff meeting where we discuss the process, like today, and we also talk about the integrations you have. And here it's always great when we have clients that has a good overview of what integrations they have. Then we'll create a dedicated wiki space for you. So either the wiki space that you got when you got implemented, we'll use that, or we'll create a dedicated one for you. And we'll use that wiki space to keep track of meeting notes and decisions. And we'll also be using these test and final move checklists. So we have a template for what needs to be tested and a template for what we need to do on the final move. But we will, of course, update them in the process. So we will, continuously together add new things to test or add new things that we need to remember on the day that we do the final move. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. And I think I actually forgot to ask a question in the beginning. So how many of you are actually local hosted here today? So all of you. So potential small projects for me later on. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does the switch on work?
So it's the arrow. Yeah.
Oh, the arrow. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Kresten. Welcome. And I will start with some general information about our University of Groningen. We are more than 400 years old, have 11 faculties and 35,000 students. We are managing Pure since 2014. I'm involved since 2014 also, and it's managed by the University Library of Groningen. On the right-hand side, I made a screenshot from our portal to let you see how many profiles we have active on the portal. So that's my 8,500 almost, and we have almost 209,000 research outputs. And that is a figure that has influence on how the process was going. Yeah. Before we started, we gathered all kinds of questions and had an initial meeting with Elsevier to discuss these questions. And after that, we had to get approval from our management team and of our Center of Information Technology. And well, we told them that the benefits would be mainly the cost and performance-wise. You can see here them written out, but that was enough to get them over. And we got approval. And after the approval, we had the first kickoff meeting with Elsevier, with Kresten and Hang were there. And after the initial meeting, we started to having regular contacts with bi-weekly meetings and sometimes mails. We also had checklists on the wiki pages, like Kresten just told, and these were very, very helpful with us. We could see what had to be checked and what has been done. And we started with testing from the data from the test environment, just to be sure that everything was going okay. And that was a good idea because I think something went wrong the first time, but well, in the end, everything was okay. And of course, what very important is to prepare communication with the end users that we are going to have a downtime, because that was in all these years we have Pure, never happened before, so that was very important. The next is an overview of our integrations made by my colleague in the library. And this was very easy for us to actually pinpoint what we needed to test. On the left hand, you can see what is going in, AVA's rug and AVA's picobello. Okay, sorry, AVA's UMTG is on the outside. Yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, the UMTG is a separate part from our university. They have our own HR, but we have one Pure. So on the left is what's going in, and on the right you can see what is going out, and especially the profile pages on our UG site website and on the UMTG website is very important, and of course the cloud portal. During the actual move, we were not available for 2 days. Also, there was no data shown on these profile pages I just mentioned from the UG website and the UMG portal. The handled server took some more time than we thought, and because it needed to be upgraded to the newest version. And like Kresten also said, the research portal was still available, was not updated with new content. So you could use it and see what is going on, but it was not yet ready with all the new content. And in our case, it took a week before it was updated completely. Well, we announced that we were not available for 2 days, and that was very good because we hardly get any questions from people saying what is the matter with Pure. After the move, we have an overview of the problems we encountered and the lessons learned. So one of the things was the big amount of data, why the migration took much longer. And a tip is to start a day before the move with the export of the data. The server performance was low, so the jobs needed much longer than expected, so we needed to double the resources. Also very important that the HandleNet server will not go to the Amazon cloud server. You need to have this on your own server. We didn't know, so we had to do it and make it fixed again. And what also is important, that the sync database, our Pure sync database, so the continues to run locally. It took about 5 months, but that was including a holiday break from 4 weeks. So I think we could have done it in 4 months also. Well, these are the advantages, and this is also my next slide. So we don't need to perform application management anymore. We do need, of course, functional management and the management of the so-called interfaces, scripts to collect data from other sources. We use, for instance, Meltwater, and we are going with an RDMS system. And of course, also to script the scripts to display data on the UG website. We have to test it. Together with Pure, we also went to the cloud with Hora Venita. That is a PhD online registration system. And after everything went successful, we had time to celebrate it with a cake for all members of staff.